Hey y'all, MCD Knight here with some alarming news that shocked even me, a Splitgate 2 MVP partner. Portals are disappearing on the world of Splitgate 2 as 1047 Studios decides to wind the game back to a beta stage to focus on the evolution of the game behind closed walls. This comes after shouldering the tremendous weight of ever-growing virulence online, a promising launch hindered by presentation backlash and server stability issues, and all while pushing through with the desire to change the landscape of FPS games, a huge undertaking in and of itself. So what happened? How did Splitgate 2 go from the most anticipated cult classic sequel to strategically retreating behind cover to reload? I have a few inclinations, so why don't we look at them together and you tell me what you think. Before we could talk about what happened to Splitgate 2, let's talk about its predecessor, Splitgate 1. What started as a passion project between college roomies quickly blossomed to an arcade success, with its snappy, almost boomer shooter arena-style gameplay quickly winning over the hearts of gamers. With its unique blend of Halo gunplay and portal science, it was clearly the breath of fresh air the gamersphere needed in the midst of bland, drab, militant shooters and the battle royale saturation. It entered early access in May of 2019 and stayed in cooperative development for 2 years before launching for real in July of 2021 to resounding success. So successful, in fact, that it grew too big for such a small team to sustain support efficiently and effectively, so despite its initial triumph, official support for the game shuttered in October of 2022 when they released their last patch. However, as of this video, servers are still up and running. Get those nostalgic matches in while you can. Part of what made Splitgate 1 so easy and addictive to pick up and play was its kinship to classic shooters like Halo and Quake, with its movement, gunplay, and arena designs. Weapons scattered around the map created interest points for players to vie for, and once victorious gave way to arena supremacy with more powerful or versatile weapons. Losing this fight for weaponry could be corrected by eliminating the holder and plundering their arsenal, creating a balance that felt surmountable. While ground speed wasn't as heightened as in games like Quake, yet still faster than something like Halo, it struck a speed that felt satisfying and simple to master. It was definitely giving Boomer Shooter Jr. Zoomer Shooter? Anyway. Coupling this with the strategic implementation of portal mechanics really separated the game from its competitors, giving players a new skill to master their own way, whether using them strictly for smart, quick movement, only for sightlines, or every style in between, including not using them at all, should they wish. But in a sequel, you often have to bring more, to make it enticing for players to actually want to pick it up over the original, especially if their servers will be running side by side. So how could they change the game while still aligning themselves to the vision they sought? 1047 landed on adding factions to the game, as well as giving players loadouts wherein they can modify their guns with attachments and augment their character with perks and equipment, which falls more in line with the modern FPS games of today. Each faction had their own selection of gear, on top of a team-specific special ability that had the potential to completely change the tides of a gunfight. Until the launch of the sequel, every public playtest featured these in an evolving capacity. On paper it all sounds good, but they really wanted to make a big splash with this new entry. And bigger is better, right? But not a campaign. Think bigger, as they said. What did they have up their sleeve for launch? Enter Summer Games Fest. The official Twitter page had been teasing their big announcement for the better part of a week, and we were all chomping at the bit to find out what it was. The CEO waltzed on stage with a life-size Arrows assault rifle, probably the coolest prop ever, and sporting the most controversial hat of the year, probably the least coolest prop ever. But hat aside, we were eager for the news, and that's when they dropped a battle royale. This immediately polarized the internet, and the studio came under prompt scrutiny over the news on top of the hat. But we're not here to talk about the hat. Enough haberdashery here. The battle royale, on top of all the new elements such as factions and loadouts, put Splitgate 2 to definitely set itself apart from its forerunner. But in a good way? That was yet to be seen. Initially during the playtests, factions and loadouts tested well. The team was open to feedback, mindfully monitored what they considered proper rectifications to the balance issues, and treated all the modes with the same respect. But server instability and challenge and stat tracker inconsistencies ate a lot of the patience players were willing to offer through goodwill built by the team's first endeavor. The game was still fun, because at its core it's still Splitgate, even fleetingly. It just didn't work sometimes. On top of that, while fresh and exciting, the Battle Royale felt an amalgamation of current formulas more than its own original take. It's very clear from where the team pulled a lot of its inspiration, which isn't inherently a bad thing, because of course that inspiration was pinnacle Battle Royale for quite a while, and some may argue that it still is, despite their increasingly predatory monetization and still not having to fix the audio bug because... Anyway, the difference between that game and this one is that even though it was set to initially be Titanfall 3, it was built from the ground up with the Battle Royale in mind. Splitgate 2 didn't have that luxury. It was to be a sequel to an arcade shooter, featuring a battle royale. The difference in design is immediately apparent, as the lovingly catered loadout system becomes a no man's land where you can equip anything to anybody and have every perk, leaving room to absolutely just become broken in every facet or completely ineffective altogether. The concept of merging worlds was amazing, but tentative pacing and the Build-A-Bear loot system felt hollow more than it did satisfying. I found myself never exploring options outside the familiar unless I had to, and the world events didn't feel like they held much impact to whatever I was doing. I appreciate the effort needed to overhaul an entirely new mode as large as a battle royale, and for that I give my praise, because what we got isn't bad at all. It's fun, just empty? Shallow? It's hard to describe, but it definitely didn't feel very Splitgate, even despite access, however limited, to portal guns. On top of all this, players were frothing at the mouth for a ranked mode, which finally came, but the ranked was a little rank. Greenhorn players would get matched up with top 100 and everything in between. People cheesed faction abilities to create frustratingly impenetrable strategies, and an imbalanced RP distribution as the game tried to estimate where you belonged didn't leave a good taste in anyone's mouth. I didn't play much of the original Splitgate's ranked modes, if any at all, but if this is anything like the first game, it's clear the impact of factions and loadouts wasn't considered over everyone starting with the same blank slate of AR, BR, and pistol. The modes initially launching with radar raised concern as well, but none so intense I would prod further, as that would be an easy fix. And that's where we're sitting at now. So, what do you think could be the reason behind the decision to recede to beta phase? In my opinion, there's a distinct lack of Splitgate 1 in its sequel. Without the portal play, it honestly could just be another entry in the FPS genre. Taking away the weapon spawns in favor of loadouts and not making the equipment and special abilities some sort of Halo-style power-up douses the arcade feel of the first game. I do like the idea of factions aesthetically and ethos-wise. Like, it's cool to see who designed what weapons and facilities and kind of get immersed into the world that way. I wish there was a way to make their abilities seem fairer, though, and having them limits the imagination on the kind of characters you can create, as they would mostly have to be humanesque to fit an identifiable silhouette, or just blatantly have their faction plastered in huge font over their outfit. Looking at you, Iris Mac. You can't really get outrageous with character design in this like they could the first one, with characters like Tusk and Old Man Jack, or my favorite character, Sable. I still have a grand time playing the game. I think it's loads of fun, and I don't think it's bad at all. I just think it missed the mark a little. I'll continue to play it through its evolution and look forward to the game it becomes in the future. But for now, it seems like 1047 was to realign their vision, and so will fall below the tides to amass and reemerge anew. But what do you think? What are the kinds of changes they could have made to avoid coming to this conclusion? Do you believe the game can be, for lack of a better term, saved? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.